It's a long time ago. Where were you in 1985? Just for reference, the people in the front two rows don't get the answer. What was popular then? Had a yellow Camaro. It was an old yellow Camaro. Had a vinyl roof on it. That was awesome. It had a 350 cubic inch V8 short block 5-bolt main engine in it. It turned dinosaurs into noise like that. It was fun. And I was convinced I knew everything. Now I'm convinced there are a lot of things I don't know. What I am convinced of, and we're going to talk about this a little bit today, is how amazing our United States Air Force is. How amazing our airmen are. And every one of you is an airman. Think about that. See, I don't care what outfit you have on, because some of you are in uniform, some of the Silver Wings are not. Some of you might have served or are planning to serve, or maybe just have an affinity for airmen. That makes you an airman. Because to me, an airman is somebody that wears the uniform, active guard or reserve, a civil servant, a family member, a civil air patrol person. All of you who come together to make the fabric of air power happen. It's a pretty special club. It's a very elite club. In fact, many are called, few are chosen. And as our Air Force shrinks and has shrunk over the past years, the number we have called and the number we have chosen to become even smaller. That makes each one of you airmen that much more precious, that much more symbolic of the future of our nation, of the potential for greatness, untapped greatness that our United States Air Force has. The most feared and respected air, space, and cyber force mankind has ever known. And I'm counting on every single one of you to carry that on throughout the rest of the 21st century and beyond. So before I start, I'd like to say thanks for letting me be here. Thank you to Arnold Air Society. Thanks to everybody that invited me, to Civil Air Patrol, Silver Wings, everyone for letting me be a part of this today. Somebody said, hey sir, could you talk a little bit about what it means to be a non-rated 3-star general in our Air Force? So let me diffuse that expectation right now. So those of you that wanted to hear me talk as a non-rated 3-star general in your United States Air Force, stand by for disappointment. Because I don't see myself as rated or non-rated. I don't worry about the doofers on my badge, the badges on my uniform. I don't worry about that. I don't see myself as a logistician, a nuclear weapons expert, a person with medical background and civil engineering background. I see myself as an airman. I'm an airman first. What I happen to do is represented by the badges on my uniform. And that's really important, and I'll come back to that here in a little bit, about being an airman first. In fact, I'm going to read something to you. It's on the piece of paper here, and I'll actually read it so I get it right. So on this date, in 1913, Lieutenants Thomas DeWitt Milling and William C. Sherman, Aeronautical Division, U.S. Signal Corps, that would be the United States Army, broke a distance and duration record by flying a single-engine Burgess Model H, quote, military tractor biplane from Texas City to San Antonio. Not all that far from there. A distance of 220 miles in 4 hours, 22 minutes. 220 miles, 4 hours, 22 minutes. Fascinatingly enough, Lieutenant Sherman actually drew a map of the terrain while he was flying. I would suggest he was probably going pretty low and pretty slow. The airplane was powered by a 70 horsepower Renault engine, 27 feet long with a wingspan of 34 inches. But this is what's interesting. Thomas Milling was issued the Fédération Aéronautique Internationale's Pilot Certificate number 30 and the Army's Military Aviator Certificate number 1. Airman, that's the lineage that you come from. He was the first military officer authorized to wear a military aviator badge as part of his uniform. That's the pedigree, that's the lineage that we all descend from. That's the long blue line to which we're all a member of. We are an aerospace nation. The fact that we are an aerospace nation is what makes us great, is what sets us apart. It's what gives us the military advantage we've enjoyed. It's what gives us the economic advantage we've enjoyed and gives us the many blessings of liberty. So I'm going to walk off to the side here, and I would ask the folks back in the back to please run.
We never stopped being airmen. Never. We died in battle. We separated, retired. We died of old age. But we never stopped. Not for a second. Integrity first, service before self, excellence in all we do. Back then, those core values weren't written down anywhere. Back then, we were still young and full of ourselves. But we knew what was expected of us. We were given orders. We were told what it means to be airmen. But they were just words. They still felt like rules. We didn't feel it. Not yet. Integrity first, service before self, excellence in all we do. Your first couple of years, you learn the core values. The rest of your life, you live them. The person you were is gone. The person you are is an airman. You're already better than you were. It is your privilege to serve this country to the best of your abilities. It is your duty to serve beyond those abilities. What kind of airman do you want to be? What kind of airman does your country deserve? Every day is a test of character. We can fall or we can fly. Excellence is not perfection. Integrity is not sainthood. And selflessness doesn't mean you don't matter. Some people believe in setting goals for themselves they know they can reach. When your job is to do the impossible, you have to set your goals a little higher. Never give up. Never slow down. Never look below the horizon. You will grow old and you will die, but you will never stop being an airman. Aim high, airman.
What does the future look like? I don't know, your crystal ball is probably about as good as mine, but I'll tell you one thing, the future looks a lot like this room. The future looks a lot like the airmen in this room. Young men and women, they're going to take my place one day in the United States Air Force and make sure that we can deliver combat power anywhere on the planet at a moment's notice. And to be so proficient at it that our enemies will dare not challenge us. We live in dangerous and uncertain times, right? And we have to be prepared for that dangerous and uncertain future. A future full of threats that may not even present themselves today. A future full of threats that perhaps we've just begun to recognize. And how are we going to defeat them? I'll need your help. So what we just saw was some amazing airmen doing some amazing things in that video. What happens when the electricity goes out? What happens when the computer doesn't work? What happens when your cell phone network is dead? What happens when the GPS in your car goes out? I'm not sure, but you're going to help me figure it out. Because you're an airman. And air power is the power of airmen. Just like as you saw in the video, all the way from 1903 to this day, to 1913, when we had our first set of pilot wings and first military aviation certificate issue. Airmen have innovated, they've adapted, they've adopted, they've created, they've thought their way through difficult problems that offend the nation. Who would have ever thought we would have had platforms that had stealth technology, virtually invisible to enemy radars? Or ordnance so precise that a man on the ground could talk to a woman in the air and say, I want you to fly that bomb through the third window on the left on the fourth floor. That we could put persistent intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance over a point on the planet and watch it with an unblinking stare for not hours, but for days. Why? Not because we could, although that's important, because that sends a signal to our enemies that we can. But so our joint partners, our ground forces, whether they're soldiers or Marines, or in many cases even airmen and sailors, can know it's behind that ridge, behind that wall, around that corner, before we send somebody's son or daughter into harm's way. Airmen innovating into the future. So I'm not sure what the future holds, but you're going to help me figure it out. And I'm fairly confident that the future will unfold on your watch. That's kind of sobering, isn't it? But that's really exciting, because I know that you will help solve those problems. Because that's what makes our Air Force great. Every one of those airmen you saw in that picture, what did you think? Those were some amazing airmen, right? But you're that next generation of amazing airmen, and you just don't know it yet. I know it. The people in the front row know it. And so I'm excited to see what you innovate, what you create, and how when I say air power is the power of airmen, what power you as airmen are going to bring to the defense of the nation in the years and decades ahead. So let's talk a little bit about how to be a successful airman. And I'll go back to what I said a minute ago about, hey sir, would you talk about what it means to be a non-rated airman at the lieutenant general level? I'll tell you what it takes to be a successful airman at any level. Hard work. People ask me, so I've had 19 assignments in a little over 30 years of active service. That doesn't include my 5 years in college. I did a victory lap. Don't be mean. People say, hey, what was your best assignment? They've all been my best assignment. They say, hey, what was your worst assignment? They've all been my worst assignment. You know what determines that? You know how big that problem is? About 6 inches. It's right about the gap between the left part and right part of your frontal lobes. That'll determine what assignment is good and bad for you. But all of them, I can assure you, require one consistent theme. Hard work. The best job you'll ever have anywhere in the Air Force is the job you have today. And that's the key to leading and to being successful. Because people always say, what does it take to be successful? Do great at what you're doing today. We've all had jobs, we've all taken classes we really didn't like, right? Yeah? That's no excuse for not doing a great job. The Air Force expects us all to do great jobs at whatever the task is we've been given. And you know what happens when you work really hard and you do a great job at the task that the Air Force has given you, even if it's not the task you want? People notice. The old people notice, and the young people notice. What do you think the old people notice? The old people notice, wow, that's not a particularly tasty task I gave him or her. But you know what? They rolled up their sleeves and they got busy. They're doing amazing work in defending the nation. The young people notice, that's not a particularly tasty task that person's boss gave them. But you know what? They rolled up their sleeves and they got to work. And I'll tell you, that's the kind of leader I want to follow. That's the kind of leader I want to go to war with. Why? Because those are the leaders you can count on. And when the shooting starts, and things get difficult, and the bullets are flying, it's essential that we as airmen have leaders we can count on and subordinates that we can count on. Because what we do is underpinned by one word: trust. So look to your left. Everybody do me a favor. Look to your left. And look to your right. Okay, nobody got spatial disorientation and fell out of the chair, so that's good. So all you kind of pile up pre-screen. Those are the people you're going to go to war with. Those are the people you're going to lead, and those are the people that are going to lead you. You have to trust them. Trust is an essential part of what we do as airmen. Right? So what do we look for? Hard work. Great attitude. Being trustworthy. It's absolutely important. So it really doesn't matter what badge you wear. God bless you, whoever just sneezed back there. And whoever that was, if you need to sneeze, go ahead and sneeze. I don't want you to blow out your eardrums. You'll have medical emergency, and then that'd be bad news. So if you need to sneeze, go ahead and sneeze. So I won't talk to you about what it means to be a non-rated airman. I'll just talk to you about what it means to be an airman. You probably didn't think you would hear that, did you? But that's how I want you to view yourself. And I want you to ask questions. I want you to be curious. And then the last thing I'll tell you about being a great leader, or trying to be a great leader, because there are no great leaders. There are only people that try to be great leaders and continue to work and refine their craft. And the minute you think you're a great leader, you're the leader that I might not want to spend a lot of time with, because that might make you a little nervous in combat. But the best leaders I've observed, the people that I want to be like, and say, like General McNabb, like Duncan McNabb, if I could have a tenth of his leadership, I could be successful. How do I get to be like that? How do I get to bottle that and drink from that so I can be better at what I do, to be better able to take care of my airmen and my nation? And so I think the best leaders do this. They create the environment, and they establish the vision. The vision, this is where we're going, this is what we need to do. This is what I expect from you. And they create the environment, give them the tools, the resources, and the equipment to get the job done, and then just stand back and prepare to be amazed by him. Innovative, curious, powerful, focused, dedicated airmen who all say the same words when they get the entire United States Air Force. I do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. We're all connected by those same words, right? Establish the vision, create the environment. And that's the key, I think, to success in our United States Air Force. And then the last thing I would tell you is, let's go back to the badges for a minute. So if you read my bio, you say, well, okay, he's a logistician, or you read some other people's bios, and you say, well, you know, maybe he's a doc, or she's a fighter pilot. And you think, well, he's in the logistics business. Did you know what business I'm really in? I'm in the people business. And every one of you is in the people business too. In fact, every one of you ought to get the HR badge, the human relations or personnel badge. Because every one of you is a personnelist and an HR specialist. Just by virtue of being in this room, you are a personnel specialist. Think about that. People in this room you will know for the rest of your career. You will serve with them, you will celebrate with them, You will go to some of their weddings. And I suspect you might even have the sad occasion to go to some of their funerals. But you know what? You will serve with them and you will know them, and they will be your brothers and sisters in arms for however long you choose to do this line of work. So you're in the people business because relationships are how things get done in our Air Force. The ability to know somebody from NAPCON, from COWBOYCON, from ROTC, from active duty, from pilot training, from tech school, from whatever it is that you do or have done in your Air Force career, and to be able to pick up the phone or send them an email and say, hey, I need some help. I don't know who does this, but I think you do. I got a problem. Can you help me? Can you be a wingman to me? So every one of you in this room, whether you know it or not, you're in the people business. And everything we do in the people business is underpinned by our core values inside the United States Air Force. Integrity, excellence, and service. So if you don't know what else to do, just reflect on those three things. Here in a moment, I'm going to show one more video. Before I do that, I'd like to simply say thanks. Thanks to the Board of Trustees, thanks to the advisors, thanks to all the senior leadership that's here. Thanks to Colonel Gallen, or Captain Gallen, for being here, sir. Thank you. It's great to see you. Thanks to all of you who have made this particular day a special day in history, not back from 1913, but back to 2016.